And this video dive into the movie Spider-Man No Way Home. We will discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and character. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide reviews and share personal reactions. So let's get started. Spider-Man No Way Home unwrapped the best Christmas gift of all, becoming the first pandemic-era movie to cross $1 at the global box office. Sony's comic book epic has eclipsed that milestone in a near record 12 days, trying with the 2015's Star Wars. The Force Awakens as a third fantastic movie film to reach the billion-dollar benchmark only 20 years Avengers Infinity War and 2019 science fiction's epic Avatar to become the third highest grossing domestic release in history. After weeks of the speculation, our better or not better Parker had the legs to bump the people of Ventura from Bronx. Spider-Man No Way Home collected the remaining $1 million on Monday to push Avatar and this mighty $760.5 million at the North American box office to fourth place in the record books. Sony's latest Spidey adventure, a culmination to Tom Holland web-slinging trilogy, has grossed a stunning $760 million at the domestic box office since launching exclusively in theater in December. Those ticket sales are three times as such as the next highest grossing movie of the pandemic era, which is Disney and the Marvel's Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings with the $224 million. For Spider-Man No Way Home, the buck may stop here. It would require an additional $100 million Adventures Endgame, $858 million, add no to Sport, and even more to match Star Wars. The Force Awakens $936 million in first place. Nostalgia is powerful force, but even that kind of the comeback would be unlikely in the middle of a pandemic. Spider-Man No Way Home benefits from a much higher average ticket price than Avatar. This does not detract from the anonymity of this achievement coming during a pandemic-impacted marketplace, says Paul, a senior media analyst with the Comscore. It would have been unimaginable just a few months ago to think that the latest Spider-Man film would have a short leapfrogging our Avatar, which has been a mainstay on box office empty Olympus for over a decade. Globally, Spider-Man No Way Home is the sixth highest grossing movie of all time with $1.8 million. Like its domestic competitor, Spidey's cosmic challenges could remain beyond reach. That's because the top 5 spots on worldwide box office chart, consisting of Avatar, Avengers Endgame, Titanic, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and Avengers Infinity War, have each cracked $2 billion without China. It may be unrealistic for No Way Home to reach the benchmark, so while Navy Nation may have fallen in North America, Avatar will easily maintain its all-time global box office title with $2.802 billion. Directed by John Watts, Spider-Man No Way Home has commented several box office benchmarks over the course of its during opening weekend alone. The film landed the second biggest domestic debut in history with $260 million at the third largest global start ever with $600 million. Eventually, it became the first pandemic-era movie to cross $1 billion at a global box office. The third chapter in Holland's trilogy takes place after Spider-Man's true identity is revealed to the world, igniting global shows and upending the lives of everyone he loves. Desperate to restore normally, he asks for help from Doctor Strange, whose spell goes wrong and leaves the teen web slinger face to face with the villain from alternate Peter Parker timeline, including William Dafoe's Green Goblin, Jamie Foxx's Electro, and Alfred Molina's Doctor Octopus. Of course, those high-profile cameos were not the only reason behind the stratospheric demand to watch No Way Home in theater. Once Doctor Strange's spells dripped up on the multiverse, It paved way for previous Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire to share the screen with Holland in a crossover event for the ages. The film is the only Hollywood release since 2019 to top $1 billion at the global box office, and with $748.9 million at the domestic box office. It is the fourth highest grossing film of all time in the US and Canada, just behind Avatar, which has generated $760 million according to ComScore data. The feat comes as no other domestic releases managed to surpass $250 million in ticket sales during their 2021 theatrical runs. However, it is no way home. Global box office all that is expert buzzing with $1.77 billion. The Sony's Disney co-production has become the sixth highest grossing film of all time, just behind Titanic 1997, which stands at $1.84 billion, and it reached that figures without a China release. The Chinese box office has been increasingly important for Hollywood film, especially those released under the Marvel Cinematic Universe banner. However, policy trends within the Chinese government, coupled with the accelerated growth of its all domestic box office, has led China to be more selective about which Western films are shown within the country. The top four global releases: Avatar 2009, Avengers Endgame 2019, Star Wars The Force Awakens 2015, and Avengers Infinity War 2018 all topped $2 billion worldwide and had significant contribution from the Chinese box office. In fact, without ticket sales from China, The Force Awakens and Avengers Infinity War would still be below $2 billion. Spider-Man's massive global success is one for the ages, but even is not without a few aesthetics, said Sean Robbins, chief analyst at the boxoffice.com. The lack of the release in China has no doubt resulted in at least several hundred million dollars left on the table. Since 2012, the Avengers China has been the second high grossing box office for all Marvel's movies, just behind the US and Canada. Ticket sales in the region typically account for between 0% and 10% of these films' total grosses. 2017 Spider-Man Homecoming generated around $13.3 million of its total box office from China, about $117 million, and 2019 Spider-Man Far From Home saw 18.85% of its global all, or $204.9 million from the regions according to ComScore data, with Spider-Man No Way Home bringing together generation of Spider-Man character. It acts more like an Avengers-style team-up movie like Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, or Avengers Endgame, which means its total percentage could have been on the higher end of the spectrum, ranging from 18% to 22%. Even a conservative 10% of total ticket sales would have given the latest Spider-Man film a $170 million boost. At 20%, Spider-Man No Way Home would have generated around $340 million in sales from China, exceeding the $2 billion mark. The ultimate final tally certainly would be higher, perhaps over $2 million, with China contribution, and Paul the Garbadian senior media analyst at the ComScore. Over the weekend, No Way Home trailed another $25 million in ticket sales, but with diminishing return in the coming weeks, as well as a digital release of film in the home market expected by the end of the February. Box office analysts do not expect the film to reach the $2 billion milestone. After all, market at which the film was not released have likely taken to pirating the films online and will have little incentive to see it in theater once a high quality digital copy is made available. Many argue that Spider-Man No Way Home global success shows that Hollywood does not have to rely on the China market, said June Feng, a visiting assistant, a professor of psychology Colby College. This is the naive and out of the touch because not all Hollywood movies can be as successful Spider-Man, and not all studios can afford to lose the China film market centrally as Disney did with its Marvel movies in 2021. New York CNN Business Spider-Man No Way Home. The latest movie in a Marvel franchise cost $1 billion at a global box office. The film studio Sony said on Sunday. The film reached a milestone just 12 days after it was released. Only 2019 Avengers Endgame and the Avengers. The film reached the milestone just 12 days after it was released. Only 2019 Avengers Endgame is 2002 and I am in junior high sitting front row, but too nervous to slide 4 seats over next to my crush for the debut of the first Spider-Man movie of my life. I am way too shy to talk to my crush after, but I can't stop talking to anyone within the earshot about Spider-Man. From this point forward, I will refer to Spider-Man as my favorite comic book character. Sorry, Wolverine and Nightcrawler. It's 2012 and I have been married just over a year and I am watching the rebooted The Amazing Spider-Man on DVD in my Chicago apartment. Gin and tonic in my hand. I have started comic book websites recently, but it's a fielding little project. I won't hear the film there. I'm quite unsure of where my life is headed professionally, stressed out and aimless, but nonetheless, I have a great time watching. It's 2021 and I have a rare night out without my 3 young boys. Watching Spider-Man No Way Home in a theater screening that required proof of vaccination against a virus sweeping the world yet again. Today, I will worry about all the maskless movies around my enjoying their popcorn, but for nearly 3 hours, I am fixated on the web bed. Mask staff Dichico designed so perfectly in the early 60s. A lot changed for me into decade, but one relative constant is that I am more likely than not to enjoy a great Spider-Man movie, and Spider-Man No Way Home is no exception. Spider-Man No Way Home they celebrate this history, specifically engineered to inject a whipping serving of a nostalgia into the unstoppable Marvel Cinematic Universe machine is glorious integration of Spider-Man's 2000 success at the box office and the full scope and scale of an interconnected shared Marvel's universe at the conclusion of Far From Home. Mysterio reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, drawing a now world-famous and half the world over-revealed Peter in No Way Home to turn to Doctor Strange to cast a spell that will make everyone forget. The attempted spell goes awry, leading to an invasion from across the multiverse of characters who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, including the villain Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus, William Defoe Green Goblin, Jamie Foxx's Electro. I was nothing but entertained and out to the movie 2.5 hour runtime. Trading on nostalgia certainly is not unique to comic. We don't have to dig into hard to recall the disaster known as Star Wars, The Rise of the Skywalker, but it's a huge challenge in 2021. The Rise of Skywalker, but it's a huge challenge in 2021. Very short-lived old man in the fandom loved to pine for days gone by, back when the never-ending shared story of these characters was just the way they liked it. Just the day after I saw No Way Home in theater, Marvel's announced what appeared to be throwback Gambit series from set during the late 80s, early 90s period when Storm got turned into a little girl. This transported David's corner of Maestro comic. Our Lim returned to early 90s Silver Surfer and X-Men Legend as a growing wing of Marvel's published output expressively outward to the good and old days crowd. While I'm not opposed to the creator like the Claremont, who's created so much in our Marvel's universes, continuing to get work and get paid. I am actively opposed to attitude and agendas that keep the Marvel's universe rooted in the embedded, stubborn anger after maintaining a vast golden age that probably never seen was. I love continuity and I love the history of the Marvel's universe, but I loathe regressive storytelling that does not push the universes forward and merely fossilizes a perceived version of idealized status quo. The biggest MCU movies of the past 3 years turned meta regression into artwork. This started in the Avengers Endgame, which was an uninhibited lab of all things MCU and is amplified here in the Spider-Man No Way Home with the full history of Spider-Man movies of 2000. These are movies that are looking back more than they are looking forward, and then danger, in my view, becomes getting lost in the past. Avengers Endgame briefly navigated this trap with plenty of clever choices, but it also benefited from operating as the conclusion to decade-long Infinity Saga in the MCU. It makes sense to look back as you close the curtain on an era. Spider-Man No Way Home is less clearly, conclusively, and is nostalgia, more deliberately marketed. The hype around No Way Home is less about Tom Holland's 3D Spider-Man movie and how it will impact the MCU moving forward, and more about the actor. Spider-Man No Way Home's script provides a hint at what lies ahead in Peter Parker Spider-Man's future. No Way Home is the third solo outing for Tom Holland's web slinger set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which again features his best friend, Ned Leeds Jacob Batalon, and love interest. MJ despite its release on December 17 amidst a pandemic, such that kept many away from theater. No Way Home quickly climbed the charts to become one of the highest grossing movies in history, currently sitting in 6th place behind the Avengers Infinity War. No Way Home's incredible box office success can largely be attributed to its inclusion of multiple legacy villains, including the Williams Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina Doc Ock, and Jamie Foxx's Electro. To help balance the scale, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man also returned to help Holland's Peter Parker finish the flight, which was suspected but never confirmed during the lead-up to the film's release. Now that No Way Home has been playing in theater for over a month, many of its behind-the-scenes secrets are now able to be supplied. The film's screenplay was recently released to the public via Deadline, and its final lens shed some light on No Way Home's ending and the future of Peter Parker and Spider-Man in the MCU. As he's swinging from webs near the Rockefeller Christmas tree during the film's final moment, the secret revealed he is liberated from having no jungle, two lives. Peter Parker is no more, but Spider-Man lives on. Check out the portion of the script below. The No Way Home script was released online yesterday as part of Sony and Marvel's plan to put the film into the running for the Best Screenplay Academy Award. However, its release has also revealed some interesting tidbits about Spidey's latest adventure. Much of what the script reveals about the ending was previously assumed, but now fans can read exactly what screenwriters Chris McKenna and Eric Summers intended while No Way Home marked the end of a trilogy. It is likely now the last MCU outing for Holland's Spider-Man, considering the movie's box office success and the news that another trilogy is already in the works. Spider-Man No Way Home's ending essentially killed off Peter Parker as he was known and provided a soft reboot for the franchise, thereby providing the endless possibility for Spider-Man's future. The final lines in the script basically confirm as much. Spider-Man No Way Home landed in UK cinema on the 15th December 2021, picking up from where Spider-Man Far Home left off, with Peter Parker struggling with his identity as Spider-Man being public knowledge as well as with impact. This has own girlfriend Michael's MJ Jones Watson, best friend in Ned Leeds, and his son May Parker Marissa Tomei. Peter turned to the sorceress Dr. Stephen Strange for assistance in undoing the damage, but further disaster soon strike as the interference in the sorcery opens up his universe to theater from villains across the multiverse. Peter finds himself facing off against some of the biggest enemy from across the multiverse, including the like of Doctors Octopus, Electric and Lizard, Sandman, Hadron and the Green Goblin, but can the beloved superhero solve his problem and save the one is he loves? The film also features Benedict Wong as Wong, Tony as Agent Flash Thompson, and J.K. Simpson's J.K. Jonah Jameson's. For everything you need to know about the Spider-Man No Way Home ending scenes, including who dies. For everything you need to know about the Spider-Man No Way Home ending scene, including who dies and how the films ascended into Doctor Strange in the multiverse madness wrote on. But we warned from this point on to our spoiler guide. Meanwhile, you can find all need to know about Spider-Man No Way Home and credits as well as the full spoiler updated cast page. Earlier in the films, a botched spell by Doctor Strange that was intended to restore Peter Parker's old life instead attracted villains from across the multiverse who are aware of his secret identity. That included Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Jamie Foxx's Sandman, and Lizard with Peter Jackson's. In doing so, he had to cross Doctor Strange, temporarily trapping him in the triple mirror dimension to stop him from casting a spell that would doom his rival to Grizzly and in their respective home universe. However, this delay is repairing the damage caused by the spell has conscious consequences. As the closest rift opens up across the multiverse that threaten to end the world as we know it, we see various obscure figures preparing to make their way through the rift in the ending scene, many of whom are quite hard to make out during his passing glance we were given in the cinema. One that does seem fairly easy to identify is a African version of the Reno feature in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, played there by actor Paul Giamatti. This implies that all manner of dangerous villains would have been allowed in the MCU by this shift, some even from the Richard Marvel franchise, which would have thrown the world into utter chaos. At the end of the film, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield iteration of Spider-Man are returned to their respective universes thanks to Dr. Strange's spell, having helped them Holland Spatter realize that taking Avenger on Green Goblin's Norman Osborn for the death of Aunt May without fix anything and bring back lessons to base Spidey learned when he contributed to the death of the man he thought had killed his uncle Ben Parker. Today's Spatter went home for a successful mission and with the reformed version of Norman Osborn, Dr. Octopus, Otto, Octavius, and Sandman Frank Marco. Earlier in the film, Tobey's Spatter had revealed that had achieved happiness with Mary Jane Watson after the death of Harry Hobson in Spider-Man 3. Meanwhile, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was in a dark place following that of his true love Gwen Stacy in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, thankfully helping the Tom Holland Spider to save MG from death in the similar manner to how he lost Gavin and helping to find redemption for Electro Max and Lizard Kurt Connor. Garfield's better return to his universe in a much better place. In the final scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, It becomes clear that everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has no idea who Peter Parker or Spider-Man are. Not only is he a stranger to his loved ones, but he is also no longer a member of his Avenger. Instead, Peter focuses on his local community and goes back to being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man after paying a visit to his Aunt May Parker's grave and being inspired by the epitaph on her gravestones. When you help someone, you help everyone. Dishing the high-tech gadgetry of his sword from the recent film, we end on the Peter donning a classic homemade style Spider-Man costume similar to the ones worn by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's edition. Spider-Man is here to stay whatever happens. Much like 2019 Spider-Man Far From Home, this latest adventure has left Tom Holland's web-slinging hero in quite the unbelievable bind. With no one is MCU remembering who he is from loved ones to be Avengers Theater. He has no choice but to strike out on his own, managing to secure a small apartment in New York City. It seems likely that his next Spider-Man film, which has already been promised by the producers Amy Parcel, will see Peter attempt to restore the memories of the trusted few people he wanted to know about his double life. Alternatively, Peter may find himself further supporting character to grow close to, perhaps with new iterations of Harry Hobson or Gauntlet. Somehow, we thought we have seen the last of MJ or Nettie, however. In addition, the Spider-Man No Way Home and credit scene also teased that we could see an MCU version of Venom appear in Holland next outing, which would be entirely separate from Tom Hardy's solo franchise. Speaking to Variety about a potential comeback, Garfield commented, I mean, yes, definitely open to something if it felt right. Peter and Spider-Man, those characters, are all about services to the greater good and humanity. He is working class boy from Queens that know struggle and loss, and he is deeply empathetic. I would try to borrow Peter Parker's ethical framework in that if there was an opportunity to step back in and tell more of the story, I would have to feel very sure and certain in myself. Monday AM update. Sony has just made it official. Their latest Marvel's movie Spider-Man No Way Home is the second highest opening ever at the domestic box office with $260 million, beating Disney Marvel's Avenger Infinity Wars. To 57.com, Sony updated their international BO, which takes the Tom Holland, Benedict, and created it assembled to $340 million abroad, yielding a $600 million global debut, still the third highest ever behind Avenger Endgame, $1.22 million, and Avengers Infinity War, $640.5 million. Sunday came in at the high end of what we are sporting with the $64.70 million, which is the third best Sunday of all time after Avenger Endgame $90 million and Avenger Infinity War $69 million, and ahead of Star Wars Force Awakens $16.25 million, and Disney Marvel's Black Panther $60 million. Revised Friday and Saturday grosses from the studio are respectively $121.95 million and $73.9 million. Comscore reported that 65% K-12 and 83% college are off today, numbers that will grow to 100% are for both starting on Friday, Christmas Eve, and through the rest of the year. No doubt, Spider-Man No Way Home will be reboosted over the holiday. We excitedly compared to Spider-Man No Way Home to the Star Wars Force Awakens earlier in our coverage. However, that was a sequel to a long-awaited movie, an anomaly, and Force Awakens, and had a quite a long tail at the box office, all 3.8 multiple of its $247 million opening. Still, there is a ton of cash to be made here by Spider-Man No Way Home between the Monday after its opening weekend and the end after given year. 2015 Force Awakens made $404 million over the holiday. 2016 Star Wars Rogue One made $253 million. That last daily gross $297 million. While box office analytics from Ante counted $20 million people who watched No Way Home satisfied over the weekend, the number one theater chain AMC says this morning that $5 million tickets were sold in the US over the last 4 days for the movie, 7 million for its global locations throughout Europe and the Middle East. The Sony Marvel sequel is easily the biggest December opening of all time. For the circuit and set a new post-report opening domestic attendance record on Thursday, then broke that record on Friday, and then broke that record again on Saturday. More than $2 million watched the movie at 10 AMC locations around the world on Saturday, which is the most tickets sold in a single day since Christmas Day 2019 for the chain. Sunday's domestic attendance finished at $1 million plus, wrapping the first time the AMC has sold at least 1 million tickets each day. Thursday through Sunday since December 2019, when Rise of the Skywalker opened, AMC Prime was dominant this weekend and it was the second biggest over for Dolby Cinema at AMC and the fourth biggest weekend for IMAX at AMC. Historically, December is one of the biggest months of the year for major blockbusters releases. So to see Spider-Man No Way Home set a new all-time opening weekend box office record this month is significant not just for AMC, but for the entire theatrical industry, beamed Adam Aaron, AMC chairman and CEO. We commend our friends at Sony Pictures and Marvel on their wonderfully successful movie, which millions of people have already watched at US AMC Theatre in just 4 days. At the time of the update of this report, Sunday night estimated we are hearing for Spider-Man No Way Home. It looks as though the Sony's Marvel movie is on the verge of overtaking Disney Marvel's Avengers Infinity War as the second best domestic box office opening of all time, with $257 million. Infinity War opened in the final weekend of April 2018. We will wait for Sony to officially call the new record in the morning, but it looks very promising. While Sony reported this morning that the John Watts directed movie would be down 22% today from Saturday's 73% and 57%, we are hearing from industry sources that No Way Home is off between 12% to 16% today from Saturday, which would mean a range of $61.99 million to $64.94 million on the lower end. That gives Spider-Man No Way Home as the third highest domestic opening of all time, but with the roughly $58 million cash less than Infinity War's debut. Among all Sunday, Spider-Man No Way Home looks to rank third behind Avenger Endgame $90.3 million and Avenger Infinity War $69.2 million and ahead of Star Wars Force Awakens $60.55 million. And directly speaking, I want to see Spider-Man No Way Home tonight as a multiplex 28 miles north of the Hollywood. Earlier today, when I was booking ticket for prime evening show in either IMAX, Dolby or PLF, it appeared unlikely as Fandango kept time out. By 4:30 p.m., there was only one seat left at the new AMC Porter Bench Dolby Auditorium for a 7:30 p.m. show. However, 3 sets surfaced at the Regal's Valencia IMAX, which had its 7:50 p.m. show filled to the brim. Whenever Spider-Man No Way Home lands, it's already the gift that keeps on giving. to think that a year at this time, exhibition was on its knees and a franchise film like Warner Bros. Wonder Woman 1984 could not even open because several markets were down, including the box office capital, NBC and LA, not to mention the dumb and yet HBO Max of it all. And even it's just the 18 to 34-year-old who are heading to the cinema. In the end, it's a ton of cash and proof that for $20 million people who took in No Way Home this weekend, movie going is not dead. Sony is calling the opening weekend for Spider-Man No Way Home is $253 million, which is where we first saw it last night. Again, that's the best December domestic opening, best ever for Sony. Third best Star Wars, The Force Awakens domestic opening of $247.9 million. Worldwide Spider-Man No Way Home owns the third best global debut with $587 million after Avengers Endgame $1.22 million and Avengers Infinity War $640.5 million, and that's without China. Here states the box office analytics from intelligence report that $20 million people watch Spider-Man No Way Home this weekend. No Way Home Saturday is at $73.8 million, which is the range of where we spotted it last night. That's also the third best Saturday ever stateside. Sunday is looking at $57 million on Sunday from 433 location. The sequel is $4.7 million from overtaking Avengers Infinity War $257 million, opening as the second best domestic opening of all time. Comscore reports that all film this weekend grossed $275 million, 92% wrapped by Spider-Man No Way Home, meaning there was not a lot of the room for others to succeed. Hopefully, that changes after Christmas, where other movies can reap in the afterglow. No Way Home. The industry weekend of $275 million is plus 11% from the same film 2 years when the last big tentpole opened. Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalker. Comscore reports that the running domestic BO cum for January 1, December 19 is at $4.068 million, 82% from the same period years ago. You can say that the any Marvel Cinematic Universe title is a self-fulfilling box office prophecy. However, Eternal in the best science storytelling proved that was, and Spider-Man No Way Home in its opening weekend that has made 1.5x more than the movie entire domestic run, now at $163.6 million from the onset. This was the Spider-Man sequel moving forward with the future while paying great homage to the franchise past is how Star Wars and Star Trek to do it. In fact, the whole concept of pulling character from a franchise various iteration into one huge story has been done before. Read 1994 Star Trek Generation. Warner Bros. Got Wine Award Spidey is doing here and is pulling a similar multiple verses concept of with its upcoming The Flash movie, which stars various Batman, Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton from older DC films franchise. But no one has ever seen this version of Spider-Man with Tom Holland, finding of all villains made famous by the comic book and Sony, William Dafoe's Goblin, Alfred Molina's dog Jamie Foxx's Electro, and credit here can be given to Marvel itself for amping up the prestige of this sequel, as fans buzzed for months that it would be the cohesitional Phase 4 feature in its exploration of the multiverse. A lot of this has to do with the WandaVision, Loki, and What If, setting the stage for No Way Home on Disney Plus. In fact, you could say that the leaked casting and the rumor were the best form of the marketing for No Way Home. Tom Rothman, chairman and CEO of Sony Pictures Motion Pictures Group, beamed this morning. This weekend's historical Spider-Man No Way Home result from all over the world And in the face of many challenges, reforms, and the unmatched culture impact that exclusively theatrical film can have when they are made and marketed with visions and resolve. All of us at Sony Picture are deeply grateful to the fabulous talent both in front of the behind the camera that produced such a landmark film. Thanks to their brilliant work, this Christmas everyone can enjoy the big screen gift of 2021 Mightiest Superhero, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. As exhibitions reconvents and look to Mastic Allah for being closed during the pandemic at Sandman last August. There's, that's when Sony sprung the first trailer to Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was massive. Typically, when trailers are dropped in the room at CinemaCon, the general public has to wait months before seeing them. But that was not the case here. With a coordinated global push between all Sony departments, creative media, publicity, digital, social, the official trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home broke the 24-hour all-time record for most global views of it 355.5 million and generated the largest 24-hour social media conversation volume of all time with 4.5 million mentions and has since become the most viewed trailer of all time. Media and the trailer social push turned Cyber Monday into the Spider Monday for the ticketing launch, making it the second best pre-sales of all time. 36% of Spidey's movies all comes screen engines post-track that the YouTube online trailer was the most influential from the marketing of No Way Home. Those who went to see Spider-Man No Way Home this weekend also told post-track it was for the following reasons. The Spider-Man franchises 56%, it is the Marvel movies 54%, the cast as a whole 43%, and the story plot 40%. Tom Holland 33%, here it was good 26%, came with the someone who wanted to see it 25%, Zendaya 20%, and the actor John Watts 12%. For Sandman Spider-Man No Way Home is looking to be the number 3 chain's second best weekend ever after Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man fans prove that they are some of the most movies with a record-breaking sport for the most viewed around the world, making this live-action multiverses an international sensation that must be seen on the big screen, suggesting MC Daniel Sandmark SVP of Global Content. After delivering the Sandmark Best Ever Domestic Opening Night Box Office, Spider-Man No Way Home is currently tracking to the company's second biggest opening weekend box office of all time. Not only is our US theater, but across Latin America as well. Additionally, moviegoers are seeking the ultimate superhero experience with ticket sales significantly over-indexing in our Sandmark XE auditorium. We are proud to work alongside our patron at Sony to deliver the incomparable in-theater experience and are thrilled with the phenomenal success of their latest film. Top theater over the past 2 days for No Way Home are AMC Expire 25, AMC Burbank, Regal, Irving Spectrum, Lincoln Center, PLF and IMAX are driving 31% of this weekend's ticket sales with 62% between the 18 to 34 updated. The 34 to 44 brands reported 10% of the crowd. IMAX along took in the $36.2 million worldwide, wrapping the biggest global launch for a Sony movie, 25% higher than Spider-Man Far From Home, which had China in US and Canada. IMAX saw $22 million at 407 auditoriums, making it the biggest domestic launch for Sony, third highest IMAX domestic weekend in December, and fifth best overall. Spider-Man No Way Home is an exclamation point on the comeback we have seen at the box office in 2021 and an emphatic reminder of the unique power of the theatrical experience, especially IMAX, to unite audiences worldwide in a global event. Canada, despite 50% capacity restriction in the Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick delivered 7% of domestic box office for No Way Home, which I am told is very good. Drilling the dawn on the post-track demos of Spider-Man No Way Home, 21%. Went to see the movie with the 2 to 4 preference. Largely these were women and men under 25. 16% came on a date, while 15% went to see the movie with no one friend. The film exceeded the expectations of 49% of the crowd, while meeting the expectations of 48%. Those who bought their tickets more than 21% bought a ticket in the last week, whereas 46% bought it either the day or the day prior from when they watched it. That latter number is big indicator of Waka business. The juice for an overnexing opening such as this. Clearly headlines about the Omicron did not throw a monkey wrench in Spider-Man No Way Home, a box office prospectus this weekend, rising the at the beginning of the Spider-Man No Way Home. At least at the back press screening I attended today. The three stars of the movie, as well as returning villain Jamie Foxx, urged the audiences to keep any spoiler to themselves and not spill the beans on any of the surprises. And there are a lot of them. Such revelations would be terrible, unfair to moviegoer, Marvel fans, and especially fans of this series, which has been going strong in various interactions of decades now. This film is supposedly the culmination of the whole series, especially the arc that takes us back to the teenaged Sydney in a form of Tom Holland. He lends a fresh-faced appeal and real style to the world previously played by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Sony Marvel Spider-Man No Way Home is activating the mega Paris sales is international box office market. Due to begin offshore rollout on December 15, just ahead of the domestic December 17 debut. The John Wells directed installment has set all-time records in multiple markets for the first 24 hours and has caused some ticketing website to crash. We have here Tela fans heading to local cinema to stand in line for advance buy when they could not get them online. Awaited with a forever bridge, the Tom Holland starrer, for example, took Sandman to Mexico during the first 24 hours. Tickets were available last week. That's a new milestone, coming in 14% above Avenger. Endgame utter market to score the best ever parcels in the first full day, including the UK, Spain, Brazil, and Central America. Brazil advances are 5% over Endgame. At the same point, Poland is showing the best resale since Star Wars. The Rise of the Skywalker. Portugal passed no time to die total pre-sales in 3 days, and Australia and Turkey are on par with Endgame. As Anthony has reported, domestically, No Way Home broke first day pre-sale record for the pandemic for both number 1 and number 3 circuit, AMC and Cinemark, and also reached at their second best day for pre-sales ever after Endgame. Not all offshore markets have begun pre-sales, but the current data is a great harbinger of things to come. Of course, the Omicron variant could still be a factor in how. When the first rate dropped in August, it racked up an all-time record of $355.5 million views worldwide in the first 24 hours. No Way Home hits the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Mexico, and Korea on December 15 before opening domestically on December 17. In total, it will be out in more than 90% of the overseas footprint through the first weekend. This excludes China. There are a lot of eyes on this party, which brings the MCU into the multiverse and is expected to be a big winner, particularly in a virus era. The last film, Spider-Man Far From Home, finaled at 1.132 global and was Sony's highest grossing pick ever. Nearly $200 million of that came from China. It's currently unknown if Wendy PRC intend to set a date for No Way Home right now. The market has only one major Hollywood film, Warner Bros. Village Red Show. The Matrix Day Resurrection, dated in the coming week. As the film was given a January 14, 2022 release, and as we are hearing, China is not dating any Hollywood movies from December 17 to the end of the year. No Way Home is potentially looking at a 2022 PRC date. Marvel has gotten short shift in China in the past several months, but speculating on PRC plan can also be a full scam. Let's wait and see. No Way Home's plot revolves around Spider-Man's identity being revealed for the first time when Peter Parker enlists Doctor Strange's help to restore his secret. The spell tears a hole in their world, releasing the most powerful villain who have ever. Are you ready for a big movie? World, those big blockbuster movie you pay to see in a movie theater and line up for, even after nearly 2 years of the world being in chaos. Remember the experience of seeing something big and huge on the big screen. Why do I have something fun for you? Spider-Man No Way Home is by far the most anticipated movie of 2021, and with it comes a lot of the excitement and intrigue. When the 2019 movie came out, it was right on the heels of the success of Avenger Endgame, and it finalized with a huge reveal that left audiences thirsting for more. The release of No Way Home, especially after a long term of uncertainty, is somewhat of a metaphorical breakout, and one I know many Marvel's cinematic universe fans have been waiting for. One thing I like here in No Way Home is the idea of Peter Parker having his secret identity revealed to the rest of the world and how he deals with it. This was a capper to from home, and it is full swing here, and I loved seeing the world around him reacting to the court of public opinion in such interesting way. Most of the story is Peter trying to reverse the process with the help of Doctor Strange and all of the multiverse vagueness that comes out of it. The 2019 animated Into the Spider-Verse movie had a lot of fun with the concept, and it is taken to dazzling heights ahead in ways that I will leave for the viewer to discover. There is so much fun to have more here. There is Doctor Strange clearly annoyed by Peter and his friends, and you can tell he clearly does not like younger kids. A few characters in other universes make their way back here, and since I did not see any of the trailers or advertisement, I was clearly laughing out loud at the length this movie goes to the entertain. Of course, as everyone knows, the joy of this is going in and not knowing anything, and even more to so. Just not tell your friends what you just saw. The majority of the fun with No Way Home working so well is with our star Tom Holland, who really is at his best here in deeply conflicted and complicated shape. There is a lot of strong drama here, and his Parker handles it incredibly well, and he is matched by a very strong cast. Our personal favorite now is Zend SMG, who has lessened her snark from the previous two movies and has a more fun, developed role with a lot of range. In addition to all this, it's also a very slickly made film. John Watts, who broke into the scene, is the early 2010 Wicop car quickly movie into his series of and has always been a good choice to represent this material. It's a great looking movie, shot by cinematographer Floor, and the usual terrific visual effects are also on display, seeing the multiverses and separating citywide shows, particular made by Law Drop. My only main issue is like with several recent Marvel movies. I feel like I have said very little, but at the same time hope that it's all a fun, highly entertaining experience that is better than many of the Marvel's movies as late and can be enjoyed on his own. You are likely going to go see it regardless of what I think. But I hope you have a good time and keep the praise simple and brief and let viewers discover the fun on their own. Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man has had a unique presence on the big screen for the past 19 years, starting in 2002 with the same Raimi directed Spider-Man, which Tobey Maguire narrated. The Marvel superhero was given a wider appeal than ever, swinging his way into homes around the globe. Fast forward now to the present, and we have the third entry in a new series of Spidey films, which are set within the much larger cinematic world known as the Marvel Cinematic Universes, or MCU for short. The MCU introduced to the Tom Holland as the Webbed Wonder in 2016 when he joined Iron Man's team in Captain America Civil War. Then in 2017, we got the first full length from Holland led Spidey film, Homecoming, which set MCU. In 2018, he joined the Avengers in Avenger Infinity War before the work of Thanos erased him for existence. He faithfully returned in 2019 Avengers Endgame, which brought back these beloved people who had been erased by Thanos 5 years later. Also in 2019, we were treated to the first story to follow Endgame, with the second Peter Parker is wrestling with how to fit his own world after the loss of his mentor, Iron Man, and what is the means for him as a teenage superhero. The films end with a cliffhanger as his secret identity is revealed to the world as not only Peter Parker, but as the murderer of Mysterio, which just was not true. The latest entry into the Spider-Man world is Spider No Way Home, and Peter Parker is wrestling with how he fits into the world after the loss of his mentor, Iron Man, and what this means for him as a teenage superhero. The film ends with a cliffhanger as his secret identity is revealed to the world as not only Peter Parker, but as the murderer of Mysterio, which just that was not true. The latest entry into the Spider-Man world is Spider-Man No Way Home, which opens immediately after the events of Far From Home, showing the fallout of Peter Parker being exposed to the world. Is to discuss that Spider-Man No Way Home is about without any spoiler, but I will try to only touch on things that have been revealed in the trailer for the film. So if you even avoided the trailer, then I suggest skipping my review and going to see it. As Peter struggles with being outed as Spider-Man, with a world split on whether or not he is a hero or a murderer. Peter is finding it very difficult to move on with his life when he finds it greatly affecting his friends and family's lives as well. He seeks out the help of Dr. Strange to make the world forget Peter is Spider-Man. Strange reluctantly decided to assist and while casting a spell to make everyone forget his secret identity, Peter accidentally disrupts the spell. As a result, the multiverse is opened and villains from other world who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man start to come true. This unusual circumstances allows for familiar faces from previous Spider-Man movies previously not linked in the MCU to return, like Doc Ock and Green Goblin, actors and characters that appeared in the other Spider-Man films that starred Maguire and Andrew Garfield as if title character. The end result is a fun, thrilling, and mind-blowing experience that fans of the Spidey films will especially appreciate. I don't think you will have needed to see any of the other Spidey films to appreciate that Spider-Man No Way Home attempt, but those who have will get the most of it sure. In concept, it may seem okay, and exploring the multiverses on TV has not always worked, like in the DC comic TV series, but in execution here is brilliant. No Way Home builds off shots and come before and puts a new spin on it's a very what if sort of way. Having the original actor reprise there, it may seem hokey and exploring the multiverses on TV has not always worked, like in the DC comic TV series, but in execution here, it's brilliant. No Way Home builds off stories that come before and puts a new spin on it in a very what if sort of way. Having the original actors reprise their roles also make it work especially well and fun to watch. It's rare that at this point in the MCU, the events of the Avengers films and Doctor Strange make this seem pretty possible. In this fictional world, at least, all of the characters we care about from Tom Holland Spider-Man movies also return, and thankfully character that maybe got too much screen time in previous entries, like Flash Thompson, for example, are utilized far more sparingly. Director John Ward seemed to really have figured out what fans want in these films, and he delivers. I have made it clear before that I am not much of a Zendaya fan and have not really liked her turn as MJ in these movies, save for the latter half of Far From Home. But he's finally likable this time around. Zendaya gives her a much sweeter and grounded performances, and it finally worked. I also like Jacob Ned a lot more this time. Joe Holland, once again, is a great Peter Parker and Spider Man, and he really goes above the beyond with his performances this time. He is a solid actor and he definitely brings in a it in No Way Home. Spider Man No Way Home is a fun and thrilling film with action scenes that just tickle the phantom for Spidey fans. The fight between Doc Ock and Spider-Man that is seized on the bridge is a thriller, is brilliant and filled with a unique and clever moment. This can be said for most of the action sequences, and Spider-Man No Way Home continues to wow and surprise as it unfolds. But what is not satisfied with just eye-popping visual and fun moments. He brings lot of the emotions and heart into the story too. The Spider-Man films have always dealt with great cause and loss, and Holland's Spidey is not above such a lesson, is evidenced before by its loss of Iron Man. While the previous film series have gotten pretty dark and violent at times, Spider-Man No Way Home touches on this but hold back from graphic, visual or overtly frightening scene. I will say that the first Goblin gets pretty intense at times, and younger ones may certainly find him unsettling, but I would also say he's probably no more disturbing than he was in the pretty violent 2002 film where his character made his debut. The content is about the same as the other Holland Frontier Spider-Man movies. There is a third consecutive volumes of unfinished What If, but it seems a little softer this time than what's occurred at the end of the Far From Home. It's a recap of the scene shown at the start of the Spider-Man No Way Home. There are about 5 uses of the S word, two of them being strange Scooby-Doo. This crop lands from the trailer, but yes, an word instead of crop, and one matured use of the from a villain, with a handful of other uses of oh my god, and the variations, exclamations, and several uses of the word. There are not any graphically bloody visual. Alto Peter's faces gets pretty hit and bloody during the last half or so of this movie. We also watch a character die in a lengthy and emotional sequences, lying dead with their eyes open a couple times, but only blood shown in our another character's hand. Otherwise, there is a great deal of superhero violence, but it's seldom bloody or graphic. I will stop here as not to spoil anything further from Spider-Man No Way Home. I had an absolute blast seeing it in IMAX with a room full of clearly de-hard Spider-Man fans, and it was one of the best times I have had at a movie in recent years, maybe since Endgame. It's a solid MCU effort and one of the top tier entries into the series, while my first viewing is clearly a very positive one. I am curious to see how it will hold up repeat viewing, but I have a feeling it will do quite well. Oh, and if you are wondering about extra scene, the mid-credit scene is an interesting setup for a potential future villain. While the post-credit scene is not really a scene but a trailer for the next Doctor Strange film releasing in early 2022. Spider-Man No Way Home, the biggest movie of 2021, is now available on 4K UHD Blu-ray or DVD as well as to all digital retailer. For some reason, Sony sent and also the DVD, so the special features are pretty limited on its releases. The standard definition digital copy that comes with the DVD also has zero bonus feature, leaving the two extras on DVD disc the only extras DVD's buyer will get. The picture on both the DVD and SD digital copy is possible, but the colors are not very vibrant and there is a distinct lack of clarity. If you are movie quality snob like myself, you will want to steer clear of any DVD releases. And if you have yet to make this jump to high definitions viewing, I implore you to finally do it. You will thank me later. Spider-Man No Way Home is too great a movie to watch in anything but the highest video quality. So it seems counterproductive for media to receive anything the best. A spectacular spider journey with Tom Holland. Here Tom talks about getting the role, and we get a quick glimpse at his audition drafts. Director John Watts a talk about his own growing experience as a director of these three movies. Two, they talk about how this movie is about Peter Parker growing into becoming truly Spider-Man and not just a kid. Toby and Andrew talk about Tom's Spider-Man and having nothing but glowing things to say about the latest Spider-Man actor. Benedict and Alfred Molina as they also reflect on working with Tom. Holland makes it sound like his future as Spider-Man is very uncertain and considers this movie possibly the end of his tenure as a web hero. One unfinished awarded F from the opening of the movie. Continuation's sentiment of the growing up and maturing. The cast talk about her experience joining the series in Spider-Man Homecoming, the how they are grown as characters and real life friends over the past 5 years. We see a few more addition taps from Zendaya and Jacob Batalon, and everyone talks about just how emotional this third entry is seen and as Peter dressed as Spider-Man and M series back to his home. Happy may hear them make a sound in his room and then hear their voices in a panic saying something like what you are we going to or something and Peter asking MJ to help him out of his costume. It sounds like there's possibly getting romantic behind the door. The adults then open the door to find Peter getting out of his suit and standing there is just his boxers with MJ helping him. They quickly try to explain they were not doing anything and in all the commotion of various characters talking over each other. Aunt May makes a comment about needing to talk to him about sex. One incomplete version of 5 years. Two characters have blood on their hand and faces after explosion. A person that touches another wounded person and finds blood on the hand, meaning the wounded person is seriously injured. Peter has lots of bloody wounds on his face for most of the last act of film. Doctor Strange has a bloody cut on the side of his face in one scene, and later we see it is the right pair of scratches on his face. MG has a small bloody cut above her eyebrow. Peter and MG swing through the street of New York to the evade helicopter. Police and the onlooker dog Otike attacks a bridge full of people and start throwing cars and debris around. While attacking Spider-Man, Spidey struggles to save a falling car, and it presents in a couple situation, while also trying to defend himself from Doc Osike Dental. A bomb from the goblins goes off on the bridge. Doctor Strange and the Spidey fight through the streets of NY as they try to get an item for each other, while also trying to defend himself from Doc Osike Tentacle. A bomb from the goblins goes off on the bridge. Doctor Strange and the Spidey fight through the street of NY as they try to get him item for each other. A fight in a forest involves two villains and Spider-Man. A man attacks a couple people and then causes cars to explode outside a building. He then throws a bomb into the building, causing another explosion, and hits a person with an object that mortality wounds him. We then see a person die in an emotional sequences. A big fight sequences break out at the Statue of Liberty, then involves multiple villains. A character punches a man in the face repeatedly and then nearly stabs them to death before being stopped by another person. A character is implied with a blade but appears to survive, and other superhero action. With around $406 million domestic and around $922 million worldwide, as of Friday Spider-Man No Way Home with plan is massive, swinging past the $1 billion mark, grosser of 2021 ahead of the mostly in China $904 million, gross of the battle at the Lake Changjin, and the first $1 billion earner since Star Wars The Rise of the Skywalker 1.073 billion in December 2019. Moreover, while the likes of the detective Chinatown trees $690 million, High Mom $837 million, and the Battle of the Lake after a picture of China that no longer need copious Hollywood tentpole to retrieve. Sony and the Marvel's $200 million superhero sequel is already the rare blockbuster to cross $1 billion. Without a penny from China, it is the 49th film to pass $1 billion worldwide in adjusted global gross, but it is just 52 due since China. Unless it eventually opens in China, it will sit alongside Pirates of the Caribbean, that man's just $1.066 million in 2006, The Dark Knight $10 billion in 2008, Alice in the Wonderland $1.025 million in 2010, and the Joker. Most entries in the list did not need in China to pass the milestone, but a rise in the $1 billion crossing flick that coincide with a rise in the most avatar 3D of Georges and B. The emergence of China as a major movie-going marketplace. It goes back to the general purpose of China for Hollywood. It's not about the turning flop into hits, but about the artificially rejoicing in a huge market where Hollywood only gets back 25% of the tickets prices. The already large grosses of already successful worldwide tentpole, even Transformers Age of the Extinction, would have earned a still huge $804 billion worldwide, more than the Guardians of the Galaxy that year, without its $301 billion Chinese haul. If when Spider-Man No Way Home opens in China, it may already have governmental approval. It will only do it part to the help that Tom Holland MCU actioner get closer to the global total of Frozen, The Lion King, Avengers, Infinity War, $2.048 billion. Likewise, no time to earn $613 million overseas and $774 million worldwide, with just $60 million from China. Now there are franchises that still matter in China, such as the Fast Saga F9 and $203 million out of $721 million in China. The Monster Wars Godzilla vs. Kong earned $188 million out of $69 million in China, and Spider-Man Far From Home earned $199 million out of $1.131 million in China in summer 2019. Likewise, I could argue Disney 20th Century Studios is relying on China's interest in Avatar 2. Avatar's ratios mitigate drop-off elsewhere, with COVID impacted domestic earning and China growing interest in Hollywood flicks. There was a cause to wonder if Rise of Skywalker would be Hollywood's last $1 billion grosser, at least until Avatar 2. And it became highlight a key variable in a complicated relationship. China does not make Hollywood tentpole. In the blockbusters, China merely makes already successful Hollywood tentpole into global monsters. Once No Way Home passes $1.074 million, it will be the biggest grosser since Frozen 2. Once it zooms past 1.7131 billion dollars, it will be the biggest Spider-Man movie ever, having already passed the $402 million unadjusted Dosnicum of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Sony's biggest grosser ever, and once it passes Black Panther $1.3347 million, it will be the biggest solo superhero movie ever. Before I get into the review, I want you to write down a few thoughts before I see the movie. As I am writing this, I will be seeing Spider Man No Way Home in 8 hours. This movie already means a lot to me. I have grown up watching and loving all the Spider Man movies, even the bad ones like Spider Man 3 and The Amazing Spider Man 2. While my opinion on most of these movies have gone down as I have gotten older and more cynical, I can't help but enjoy all these movies, which are like a direct shot of nostalgia into my vein. These movies are a major part of my childhood, and these movies is finally the culmination of almost 20 years of filmmaking. This may seem weird or redundant, but I think it's important to acknowledge the significance of this movie away from the top online discourse and the movie itself. This is arguably on the same level as Endgame because it's bringing together every live action Spider Man movie dating back to what arguably put superhero movies back on the map in 2002, regardless of the movie's quality. That's huge accomplishment. I had originally approached this movie with skepticism because I did not like the idea of having Spider Man deal with the multiverses this early in his career, and I thought the movie would be a massive dump of fan services. But now that trailer and reviews are out of confirming that this would be the most personal and emotionally resonant MCU Spider Man movie, I am more excited than I have ever been for a Spider Man movie. Furthermore, the idea of Murdoch, aka Daredevil, being in this mix aesthetics, even if it's for only a few minutes, Daredevil is my all-time favorite Marvel or DC project, and Mad Murdoch is my favorite MCU character. So to not only see him back, but finally on the big screen with Spider-Man is a dream come true for me. Now that I am done feeling like a little kid again, let's see what future me thought of Spider-Man No Way Home. Before I jump in, the review has full spoiler. It's been a month and a half now, and this is a really difficult movie to talk about without discussing spoiler. So you have been warned. In short, Spider-Man No Way Home is fantastic, and I highly recommend anyone who has even a mild interest in Spider-Man to get scared. To be clear, you should watch every single live-action Spider-Man movie along with the Avengers movie before seeing this movie for it to make sense, but also for it to have emotional weight. It is the ultimate Spider-Man movie, not only through villains and the cameos, but also because of the theme and message at play here. Despite this movie having countless cameos and Spider-Man references from the past 20 years, this movie feels especially grounded compared to other Marvel event movie because the movie is centered around Peter's struggle to be Spider-Man. I will start with some criticism first because I really don't have many. Firstly, I was not a huge fan of the legacy Spider-Man villains outside of Green Goblin and Doc Ock. The Lizard was mostly a joke character throughout the movie. Sandman had some awkward placement in the movie, and his motivations just don't quite match with how Spider-Man 3 ended, and Electro has a strong personality shift that is quite jarring going from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Thankfully, Alfred Molina and William Defoe created this movie, which were the two most important villains to get right. It's just a shame that the same Remy villains get to shine so much, while the villains from the Mark Webb movie get a back burner, which kind of the undercut this being a celebration of Spider-Man movies and make it feel more like a celebration of the Raimi movies sometime. There were some good callback and characters moment for each of them. such as the Andrew Garfield's conversation with Electro in the final battle. I also have a major issue with DC movies' aversion to the mention of MCU, Uncle Ben. This is a problem throughout all the MCU Spider-Man appearance since his debut in Civil War, but it becomes especially apparent here. This movie has so many chances to mention Uncle Ben and his impact on Peter, but it never does. I get it, they did not want to tread old ground. But Uncle Ben is just as important to Spider-Man as Thomas and Martha Wayne are to Batman, and it's odd how all these movies never directly mention him. Even worse in Detective Spider-Man, immersions their Uncle Ben's. But Tom Holland just does not, which almost implies he did not exist here or play an important role in maturing Peter into the role of Spider-Man. It has a breakneck pace and almost feels like it's trying to get to the good stuff rather than properly setting up Act 2 and 3. The most thrilling part is the scene where Peter and his parents get arrested and brought to the police station for questioning. It's given a good amount of screen time, yet in the next scene everything is fine and dandy with all their legal trouble cleared. It's obvious there were other scenes filmed addressing this, especially since all the leaks and the rumors saying there was a court scene where the Matt defending Peter along with the scene of Matt talking to Peter in the interrogation room. The first act needed to extra 15 to 20 minutes to properly set up Peter's motivation for going to Dr. Strange and show the widespread ramifications of his identity being revealed beyond propagating Alex Jones type conspiracy theories. Everything else about his movie, for the most part, is fantastic. Like I said before, the first and has some issue, but it's still a fun and engaging term. This portion of the movie is the most similar to the previous two movies, as it continues the high school comedy tone that has become synonymous with this movie. But here it feels a little different because it feels like the aspect is slowly falling apart as it does for Peter. The movie's extremes shows how the effect of Peter's identity being revealed in him and his friends. Rapid conspiracy theories emerge around Spider-Man Big Cat through his window. He gets arrested and put on trial. He has to be escorted into the school as everyone stares at him like he has to his touch, and he gets rejected from college because he negative publicity he would bring. For the first time in trilogy, it feels like the Peter has real and impactful consequences to his action, which only increases as the movie progresses. This movie marks the return of Charlie Goes as Mad Murdock, also known as the Daredevil. He only has a short cameo. I had Netflix's Daredevil and is by far my favorite project in the MCU and of my superhero property for that matter. Seeing my favorite MCU character finally return was immensely exciting. The scene is he stars in a fantastic. My only issue is that it was not longer, because according to Tom Holland and some other sources, Matt and Peter was supposed to be have a heartfelt conversation on what it meant to be a superhero, which would have been an excellent startup of Peter's arc throughout the movie. Nevertheless, I am ecstatic Charlie Cox is back. Act 2 is where the movie started to bring its everyone came for and once he legacy villain from other Spider-Man movie came. The movie kills into the overdrive. This is the main event and it surely did not disappoint. Alfred Molina, Doc Ock, and William Dafoe, Green Goblin, both gives the fantastic performances, and in the case of the film, I would argue even surpasses his original performances as Norman Osborn from 2002. One thing that worried me about this movie is that it would cheapen the ending of Spider-Man 2 by reverting Doc Ock into a villain, and while this somewhat stand for a bit of movie, they do the character's justice by retaining the arc event shown in his original appearance. Villain Dafoe Green Goblin cements himself as one of the Marvel's greatest villain here. In every scene he is in, he has an ear and intimidating presence and some more quotable lines than even shown, such as God don't have to be chose. We take Andy Patcher's youth struggling to have everything you want while the world try to make you choose, despite him not having a direct connection in his movie. Like the original, Patcher and the Goblin's dynamic and rivalry is ever better pair, and this movie hones in how much out there threat the Green Goblin true is, which is something I think we lost in the original Sam Raimi movies. This movie gives the sense that he is the penultimate Spider-Man villain is just one day of knowing this pattern, Norman irreparably changes his life forever. The main attraction of this movie was definitely the return of above both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as their respective version of Spider-Man. Both of these characters were perfectly done. They feel like the same character they were when they left them off in the Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. They feel like natural progression of each iteration of Spider-Man, and I also loved how they have both characters satisfying in conclusion to the original character, such as the Tobey Maguire preventing the Green Goblin from being impaled by his own glacier, opposite to what happened in Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield saving MJ from a great fall. Unlike what happened with the Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the dynamic between the three Spider-Man is fantastic. They highlight the differences between each one while also showing how each one is great in their own way. Of course, I have to talk about Tom Holland, Spider-Man, since it's still his movie, and wow, he really steps it up here from his already great job as Peter Parker. This movie puts Peter to here bringer, and Tom delivers that perfectly, show Peter's sadness, anger, and personal conflict. This is the first time in MCU that Peter really has to struggle with power and responsibility, and the way this movie delivers it is just amazing. This movie really makes it better lives up to the mantle of Spider-Man because he is now faced with extensive choices and consequences that have a tangible impact in his life. This movie also highlight what I like most about Spider-Man, which is his empathy. Peter his life sucks and the world constantly try to put him down. But despite that, he moves past it. He remains a hero. What makes the character so inspiring to millions of fans is how he raises above the hardship in life and continues to do right thing. By the end of this movie, Peter in finally feels like the Spider-Man we know and love. Before Peter may have heard the phrases, with great power comes great responsibility, but this is aware he actually has to put her adhere to their death. I also really loved how this movie treats every Spider-Man with the reverses and respect. It does not make fun or ones that came before it, even the bad and the unpopular ones. This was a major pitfall in the Star Wars The Rise of the Skywalker, and I am thankful it was replicated here. It truly does not feel like the ultimate celebration of Spider-Man because it has something for fans of every era, while also telling a great story in the own right. I am thankful this movie exists and that is good as it is. No way home tells the Spider-Man's story on the big screen, and I highly recommended anyone with even a passing interest in the character to watch this movie. It's 2002 and I am in junior high sitting front row but too nervous to the slide 4 seat over next to my crush for the tribute of the first Spider-Man movie of my life. I am here too shy to talk to my crush after, but I can't stop talking to anyone within the earshot about Spider-Man. From this point forward, I will refer to Spider-Man as my favorite comic book character, sorry, Wolverine and the Nightcrawler. It's 2012 and I have been married just over a year and I am watching the rebooted Amazing Spider-Man on DVD in my Chicago apartment, again and tonic in my hand. I have started a comic book website. It's 2021 and I have a rare night out without my 3 young boys. Watching Spider-Man No Way Home in a theater screening that required proof of vaccination against the virus sweeping the world yet again. Today, I will worry about all the maskless moviegoers around me are enjoying their popcorn, but for nearly 3 hours, I am fixated on the wrapped mask staff Ditko designed so perfectly in the early 60s. A lot's changed for me in 2 decades, but one relative constant is that I am more likely than not to enjoy a great Spider-Man movie, and Spider-Man No Way Home is no exception. Spider-Man No Way Home celebrates his history, specifically engineered to inject a happy serving of nostalgia into the unstoppable Marvel Cinematic Universe's machine. It's a glorious integration of Spider-Man 2000 success at the box office and the full scope and scale of an interconnected, shared Marvel's universe at the conclusion or from home. Mysterio reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, drawing a now world famous and half the world over reviled. Peter in No Way Home to turn to Doctor Strange to cast a spell that will make anyone forget. The attempted spell goes every leading to any invasion from across the multiverses of characters who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, including villains Dr. Octopus, William, Jamie Foxes. I was nothing but interrupted and odd 20 movies 2.5 hour runtime, and yet I left with the questions if I know I am being pandered to, why am I not more critical of that? Trading on nostalgia certainty is not unique to comics. We don't have to dig too hard to recall the disaster known as Star Wars, the rise of Skywalker, but it's a huge challenge in 2021. Very shorty. Old men in the fandom love to point out this gone by back. These characters was just the way they liked it. Just a day after I saw No Way Home in theater, Marvel announced what appeared to be a throwback combat series from set during the late 80s, early 90s period when Storm got turned into a little girl. This drives Patrick David's corner of comic our own lame return to early 90s Civil Surfer and X-Men legend as a growing thing of Marvel's published output, especially catered to the good old guys crowd. While I am not opposed to creator like the Claremont, we have created so much in our Marvel's universes continuing to get work and get paid. That's a good thing. I am actively opposed to attitude and isms that keep the Marvel's universes rooted in the embedded, stubborn and stubborn and anger after maintaining a past golden age that probably never even was. I love continuity and I love the history of the marvelous universe, but I loathe regressive storytelling and that does not push the universes forward and merely fossilizes a perceived version of idealized status quo. The biggest MCU movies of the past 3 years turned meetup regression into artwork. This started in Avengers Endgame, which was an earned victory lap of all things MCU, and it amplified here in Spider-Man No Way Home with the full history of Spider-Man movies in 2000. These are movies that are looking back more than they are looking forward, and the danger, in my view, becoming getting lost in the past. Avengers Endgame definitely navigated this trap with plenty of clever choices, but it also benefited from operating as the conclusion to a decade-long Infinity Saga in MCU. It makes sense to look back as you close the curtain on an era. Spider-Man No Way Home is less clearly conclusive and its nostalgia more deliberately marketed. The hype around No Way Home is less about Tom Holland's 3D Spider-Man movie and how it will impact the MCU moving forward, and more about the actor who will return from non-MCU project fans already love. There's a real danger here of becoming the more of a big budget Wikipedia page full of linked sources than a story. No Way Home feels aware of this even as it's teasing with the Charlie Cook's Netflix's more substantive. There is a reason for all these causes of Spider-Pass to infiltrate No Way Home, and it is a good one. Throughout 2021, the MCU multiverses has been fracturing, most notable in WandaVision and Loki on Disney Plus that comes ahead here as Doctor Strange absolutely unhygiened exists. Crucially too, the integration of these old Spidey movies is in direct services of helping Tom Holland's Peter Parker progress as a character in No Way Home. Holland Parker is faced with our choices, send these villains back to their own universes with the knowledge that they will die or attempt to help them change from their villainous path and return with a chance at salvation. Aunt May being the one to convince Spider-Man to save and rehabilitate his villain is brilliant as May even on that door. The heart and humor of Spider-Man No Way Home also helped the film transcend threatness. I was choked up multiple times throughout and frequently not where I expected to be. The moment Zendaya's MJ being to fall from a great height. I already fled Andrew Garfield, chance at a redemption within reach, and still seeing Garfield get to drive after her, get to hold her safely in his arm, and to watch him immediately tear up thinking about Gavin killed me. That moment is particularly feels special because it's not just about a widely panned Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's about the history of Spider-Man's comic from the death of Gwen Stacy to today. I am delighted and a bit surprised that No Way Home leaned into the Spidey's secret identity exposes as strongly as it did. I anticipated Peter and Doc's strange spell would actually steal Peter's identity back up, and then the multiverse's invasion would be the result. Then instead, the two threads get to exist simultaneously and outed Peter Parker, forced to deal with the board exposure and multiversal villain Crusher, and its extremely effective retention. If I never rewatch, I anticipate it will stand out more just how much No Way Home values Spectre over internet consistency. That said, when the Spectre is Spider-Man playing keep away from Doctor Strange in the minor dimension, or fighting Electro, Sandman and the Lizard on the capture of Liberty, I don't really care. It's a tearjerker of an ending is a number of the ways, but I am both surprised and pleased that is MCU commit to an ending with a Peter Parker, who is entirely freed from not only his supporting cast, but from the net of Peter Parker, as the heir apparent to this Tony Stark and the Avenger. The ultimate simplification of Peter Parker has never been my favorite thing, but I certainly understood why that would be the case in a cinematic universe defined by the Avengers. Nonetheless, I am left in awe how No Way Home took pure doses of nostalgia and conjugated a film that so effectively set the stage for a new era of Tom Holland Spider-Man from here. I can't wait to see what the next decade brings. One of the most surprising reveals in No Way Home is not only does Aunt May get to reach better that with great power, there must also come great responsibility, and not only it is seemingly the first time Peters heard this, but it does not seem like Tom Holland's Peter Parker had an Uncle Ben at all. I had assumed that the absence of Uncle Ben in MCU, Spidey's debut in Civil War, was simply doing as a welcome favor of not rehashing Spider-Man's origins, but No Way Home suggests that it's because Peter never lost on Uncle Ben. This could just be a misread on my part, but there is no Ben Parker's tombstone next to Maze at the end of the movie. The Bay and Andrew Spidey references a Ben while Tom's does not. I don't really have any kind of issue with this, but it is fascinating to me the ways No Way Home. In May, Ben roles and reverse engineers Peter's most important lesson are something that comes after 6 movies as Spider-Man. While I certainly would not have said no to one of the multiversal Spider-Villains, the best Spider-Man No Way Home reminded me why I used to love comic books, especially the ones about a boy named Peter Parker. There was a playful unpredictability to them that has often been missing from modern superhero movies, which feels so precisely calculated. Yes, of course, No Way Home is incredibly calculated, a way to make more headline after killing so many of its event characters in Phase 3. But it's also a film that's often bursting with the creative joy. Director John Watts and his team have delivered a true event movie, a double-sized crossover issue of a comic book, and young me would have waited in line to hear first, excitedly turning every page with breathless anticipation of the next twists and turn. And yet, they generally avoid getting the weighed down by the expectation fans have for the films. Somehow, sidestepping the cultured traps of other crowded part series, No Way Home is crowded, but it's also surprisingly spry, inventive, and just purely entertaining, leading to a final act that not only earned its emotion but pays off some of the ones you may have about his character that you forget. Note: I will very carefully avoid spoiler, but stay offline until you see it because there are going to be the in landmines on social media. No Way Home pick up immediately after the end of this three Spider-Man Far From Home. We saw the film's closing scene playing over the Marvel's logo. Mysterio has revealed the identity of the man in the red light, which means nothing will ever be the same. Our Peter Parker's Tom Holland, with an almost slapstick energy. No Way Home opens with a series of scenes about the pitfalls of superframe, particularly how it impacts Peter's girlfriend MJ and best build Ned. It reaches a peak when Amity denies all three of them admissions, citing the controversy about Peter's identity and he rolls his buddy's blade in his super adventure. Peter has a plan. The wizard he met when he saved half the population, where the Avengers can cast the spell and make it all go away. So he asks Doctor Strange to make the world forget that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, which of course immediately backfire. He does not want MJ or Ned or Aunt May to get everything they have been through together, and so the spell gets drilled in the middle of it. Strange barely gets it under control, and then Doc Ock and the Green Goblins show up, as the previous have revealed Spider-Man No Way Home weaves characters and mythology from the other cinematic iteration of these characters into the universe of the current one. But I'm happy to repeat that it's more than a costing gimmick. My concern going in was that was would merely be a case of the Batman Forever or even Spider-Man 3, where more was often the enemy of good. It's not. The villains that return from the same Raimi and the Mark Webb films don't overcrowd the narrative as much as they speak to a theme that emerged in the film that ties this entire series back to the other one. For our generation, the lines about Spidey was, with great power comes responsibility. Spider-Man No Way Home is about a modern Peter Parker learning what that means. It also helps a great deal to have actors like Molina and Defoe in villain roles again given how the lack of the memorable villains has been a problem in the MCU. So many modern superhero movies have confronted what it means to be a superhero, but it's the first time it's really been foregrounded in a current run of Peter Parker, which turns No Way Home into something of a graduation story. Is the one in which Parker has to grow up and deal with not just of the fame that comes with Spider-Man, but how his decision will have a more impact than most kids planning to go to college. It asks some interesting questions about empathy as Peter is put in the position to basically try to save the man who tried to kill other multiverses iteration of him, and it playfully becomes a commentary on correcting the mistake of the past, not just in the life of Holland Parker, but those of characters and even filmmaker made long before he stepped into the role. No Way Home is about the weight of heroic decision. Even the right ones mean you may not be able to go home again. Watts has not gotten enough credit in his other two Spider-Man movies for his action, and No Way Home should correct that. There are two major sequences, a stunner in a mirror dimension in which Spidey fights Strange, and the schematic one, but is also filled with expertly rendered minor action beats throughout. There is a fluidity to the action here that's the underrated as Morpheus camera swaps and dive with Spider-Man and a big final showdown does not scumble to the common overdone halos of MCU climaxes because it has undeniable emotions weight. I also want to denote that Michael's Gex Discord hit is one of the best in the MCU. By far, it's one of the few themes in the entire cinematic universe that feels heroic. With so much to love about No Way Home, the only shame as that is a not bit more darkly presented. There is no reason. What's in the MCU in general has a habit of over explaining things, and there is a sharper vision of No Way Home that trusts its audiences a bit more, allowing them to unpack the theme that these characters have a habit of explicitly stating, and no offense to Batlone turning Ned into a major character baffles me a bit. He always feels like a distraction from what really work here. On the other hand, this is the first of these three films that he allowed Zendaya and Holland's chemistry to shine in particular. She nails the emotional final beats of her character in a way and that adds weight to a film that can feel a bit airy in terms of performances. Spider-Man No Way Home could have just been a decade greatest hits, a way to pull different projects into the small IP just because the producers can. Some will see it that just on premises alone. But it's more going on here, and the previous would have you believe. It's about what historic heroes and villains mean to us in the first place, why we care so much, and what we consider a victory over evil. More than any movie in the MCU that I can remember, it made me want to dig out my old box of Spider-Man comic books. That's a heroic accomplishment. Let's go back for a moment to a scene in Spider-Man Far From Home. No, not even where J. Jonah Jamesons appear in a very welcome from J.K. Simmons. That is obviously relevant. But the scene where Mysterio talks about there being a multiverse, spinning a story about being a hero from another dimension. It was a tease, of course. Mysterio was bullshitting, but where it gave a sneaky wink to speculate animated into the Spider-Verse, it also deliberately sowed a seed, one which sprouted to their entertained effect in the recent looking TV series, before finally realizing its full Marvel Cinematic Universe's potential here. In Far From Home's much hyped and humor-laden sequel, whether you have figured out what's coming or are taken totally be surprised by some of or surprises, we are happy to report that the result is crowd pleasing in all the best possible ways. As you will know from the trailer, thanks to Spell Cone Sideways, No Way Home brings back almost all the villains from the pre-MCU movies, which with the help of Marvel's de-aging magic solve the problem of how a new film could cast better than William Defoe as Spider-Man's Green Goblin, who wisely ditches. But in keeping with the previous Dawn Watch film, the joy of seeing them all returned is less felt in the action sequences, which occasionally become crowded and confusing with all the lightning and sand and the pumpkin bombs, than it is in the sparky, snappy dialogue. At one point, it's almost like any above average SNL sketch. Spidey various foes, all gathering together to snipe and compare notes. However, there is far more to the movie than widely executed fan services. While it piles the villainy and jeopardy high, it does not neglect the serious heart, Tom Holland's battle, and his ongoing struggle to do the right thing by his friends and family, even though doing so invariably seems to make things worse. Holland has never been more affecting in the role, or guided better through such a battering as a poor kid playing pongs between the finding solution and creating the problems, much to the annoyance of the Doctor Strange, who does not so much step into Tony Stark mentor shows as play the expected for him. There are serious consequences too. This is not just a light-hearted knockabout. No Way Home has a massive emotional blow to deliver. Crucially, this is a story about his second chances. After mysterious parting revelation, Peter MJ Ned and Marisa Tomei lives are turned into a newsfeed nightmare, and Sweetie Peter's effort to fix that pop openly aforementioned can be batty worms. It's here that the theme of the second chances gets really interesting. Why should only our hero have a second chances? Why not also? Better reasons all these damaged and multiversal. Trespasses driven to criminality by manufacturing sacrifices, errant merchants, and crossed landowners. Just below the surface, the idea is nostalgic further, witty, dimensional doors open to the older movies. The films themselves are almost given a second chances to an opportunity to do or at least address some of their plotting missteps. No Way Home is, if you step back and think about it, a bloody wide and audacious movie, yet as the crazy meta as the narrative gets, it always keeps a rich character up front with some dynamic and at time truly heartwarming interplay between the established player and their interdimensional guests. Sure, does a climatic showdown on the Statue of Liberty feels very familiar X-Men anyone, but it also serves up at least one punch the air moment that will have audiences whooping like they did when Joe rocked up at Wakanda or Cap got injured. No Way Home is the closest the MCU has come to the heights of those two films since Iron Man snapped Jones away, and are for all epic heft is somehow stays neighborhood and friendly, which also helped make it, in a very real sense, the ultimate Spider-Man movie. The one good idea that the Tom Holland starting Spider-Man films had was a simple, obvious one. They really did make Peter Parker a kid. Tobey Maguire had been 27 at the time of his first term as a high school age superhero, while Andrew Garfield had been 29. It's not so much that those actors were too old for the material, it's that the materials could never fully utilize the characters' youth and inexperiences, because we as humans have a visceral resistance to watching people who clearly are not kids making childish decisions. Holland, by contrast, was 21 when Spider Man Homecoming premiered in 2017, and he looked even younger. As a result, the filmmakers for this latest Spidey cycle, including director John Watts and his screenwriter Chris McKenna and Eric Sommer, have been able to see us on some of Peter's dodgiest choices. They have also managed to mine the age gap between him and other characters in the Marvel's cinematic universes for humor as well as the one. But in most other respects, while Spider-Man films have been black holes of imagination, the first entry features a huge set pieces at the Washington moment, an inspired idea on paper, and did absolutely nothing interesting with it. The setting might as well have been an office building in suburban Atlanta. It probably was at some point. This is particular shame when it comes to Spider-Man since previous attempt at the character, even added voices have often been visually spectacular. It does not take a unique brand. In other respect though, these movies, Spider Streak, is starting to get old. They continue to treat Peter Parker as a child, and the ultra buff grown up Holland now looks increasingly out of place. The new films begin with a Peter Parker unmasked and publicity castigated and shamed for killing the previous entry's villain. The new film began with the Peter Parker's unmasked and publicity castigated and shamed for killing the previous entry's villain. Mysterio among the real-life consequences of Parker's cancellation. I am not making this up to cast a spell, making the rest of the world forget. I agree to do so. Holland is a fine actor, but I am not sure any actor could survive the sheer idiocy of this character's decision here. Peter might be a teenager, but I don't recall him ever being this stupid, either in the comics or the movie. Anyway, because things go wrong. Portal into the other dimensions, flashing light, blah, the magic goes awry, and Peter finds himself face to face with a whole new set of problem. It's also pro forma that even such change called on the conveyor. The initial big revelations of the new films have already been shown in the trailers, so I will discuss those first. When Strange magic opens a gateway to different realities, once dead villains from previous Spidey movies suddenly return, including Spider-Man's Norman Osborn aka the Green Goblin's William Spider-Man chose Otto, Octavius, and the Amazing Spider-Man chose Electro Jamie Foxes. Again, a potentially promising idea, and judging from the cheers these veteran bad guys or emergence get at my screening, perhaps it was of secondary importance that they be given, something interesting to do. But aside from Jeffo, who once again gets to have some, why bring back an actor like Molina, who brought so much heartbreak and sneering rage to Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, only to give him no sense of son life or any good lines. The same goes for Fox's Electro, whose transformation from oddball engineer to bloody supervillain in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was one of that immediately dreadful. Film's few highlight here, he's just a tried Viscerac machine. There's the action scenes involving these characters are so insane, just as insulting to injury. Watching Dr. Octopus's dutifully those weightless, computer-generated concert pipes at our hero. It's hard now to think back on Sam Raimi's eye-popping the imaginative action sequences in Spider-Man 2, featuring these same two characters and maybe even shed a tear for what has been lost. It's not just the action and the magic that flop, even the film's more intimate moment fall flat. One early domestic comedy scenes involving better MJ Aunt May, mostly wasted here, and Happy Hogan. John has a camera peep planning and roaming the spaces of the apartment in a species of handled indie filmmaking, but none of humor feels organic or aren't or even all that funny. It does not build or make any emotional sense, like almost everything else in a movie. It's just another button making better. More of a child does allow you to play up his sincerity and nature. We should really be a breath of fresh air in a universe filled with a cynical, world-weary superhero. But for all their alleged weirdness, are you ready for a big movie? What those big blockbusters movie you pay to see in a movie theater and line up for, even after nearly 2 years of the world being in chaos. Remember of experiences the seeing something big and huge on the big screen. Why do I have something fun for you? Spider-Man No Way Home is by far the most anticipated. One thing I like here in No Way Home is the idea of Peter Parker having his secret identity revealed to the rest of the world and how he deals with it. This was a chapter too far from home and it is full swing here, and I loved seeing the world around him reacting to the court of public opinion in such interesting ways. Most of the story is Peter trying to reverse the process with the help of Doctor Strange and all of the multiverse's weakness and comes out of it. 2019 animated into the Spider-Verse movie had a lot of fun with this concept, and it is taken to dazzling height here in way that I will leave for the viewer to discover. There is so much fun to be had here. There is Dr. Strange clearly annoyed by Peter and his friends, and you can tell he clearly does not like younger kids. A few characters in other universes make their way back here, and since I did not see any of the trailer for advertisement, I was clearly laughing out loud to the land. This movie goes to the entertain. Of course, as everyone knows, the joy of these are going in and not knowing anything, and even more so to just not tell your friends what you just saw. The majority of the fun with No Way Home working so well is what our star Tom Holland, who really is at the best here in a deeply conflicted and complicated role. There is a lot of strong drama here, and his Parker handles it incredibly well, and he is matched by a very strong cast. Our personal favorite now is Zendaya, as MJ, who hosts lessons her snark from the previous two movies and has a more full developed role with a lot of range. In addition to all of this is also a very slickly made film. John Watts, who broke into the scene in the early 2010s with Cop Car, quickly moved into his series. What has always been a good choices to represent this material. It's a great looking movie, shot by cinematographer Mauro Flor, and the usual terrific visual effects are also on display, seeing these multiverses and splitting city wide shots on particular made my jaw drop. My only main issue is like with several recent Marvel movies, the big cinematic action tend to go on longer than I would like it to, and my attention wander. And I always wish these sequences were tightened up a bit. But there's a small quibble for overall fun experiences. I feel like I have said very little, but at the same time hope that is sort of fun, highly entertaining the experience that is better than many of the Marvel's movies as of late and can be enjoyed on its own. You are likely going to go see it regardless of what I think, but I hope you have a good time and keep the praise simple and brief and let viewers discover the fun on their own. Spider-Man No Way Home's ending provided the MCU the perfect conclusion to its biggest crossover to date and helped set up the exciting future for the superhero franchise. The Marvel Cinematic Universe introduces the multiverses concept in Disney Plus series Loki, but No Way Home pushed the involved, recording what this is meant for better, and the MCU timeline at large. That had solo outing for Tom Holland's web, slinging the superhero not only opened a gateway from the multiverses but also changed how fans saw the MCU's previous movies, same Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and elements of the Amazing Spider-Man films. Spider-Man No Way Home's usher in the multiverses in a unique way, and sees Peter rising above the obstacle in his way to save his friends and family, while also growing into the superhero he was always meant to be. The film's ending closes out Peter's story by showing him make arguably one of the biggest MCU hero sacrifices to death, all while also leaving the door open for the future. Here is what happened at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, how it set up the plot of Spider-Man 4 and the Doctor Strange 2, and how he spelled rewrite a lot of events in the MCU paving a part of upcoming MCU release. All three versions of Spider-Man's Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield work together to find clues for each of their villains, who are clamoring to fight with the web slinger and obtain more power than before. In a bid to clear his name, Peter lets the public decide the whether or not he would dare sport for after everything. After battling the villain, Spider-Man and his allies successfully cure Doc OCK, Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, and the Lizard, turning them back into the non-altered human they were before. While it's certainly a major win, Peter realizes the only way to save the world from multiverses havoc and send the villain and the other two Spider-Man back is to complete Doctor Strange's spell, which erases Peter's identity from the world. Doctor Strange succeeds and Peter goes back to scare one of a superhero with no help from anyone, alone in the world completely for no. Spider-Man, with the help of the Maguire and the Garfield's iteration of Peter Parker, opted to help cure the antagonists instead. Fully restored to their pre-exterminal state, Doc, OCK, Green Goblins, Lizard, Electro, and the Sandman are returned to their universes with a clean slate. It is possibly they will pick up where they left off and potentially go down different paths than before. Not only were they cured, but if you were given a second chances at life after dying in their respective movies. Dr. Otto Octavius could go back to his research. Norman Osborn could return to Oscorp and change things around, and Electro could finally embrace the fact he is not a nobody at all, but someone with a lot of potential. Meanwhile, Sandman will hopefully be able to return to his daughter, and Dr. Connor could continue his research to help people without experimenting on himself. Considering it's been a year since the previous Spider-Man movies, the villains being cured and going back to their worlds, alive continues their stories in a way that feels hopeful. Maguire and Garfield's versions of Spider-Man aided better, including their names, learning to work together as a team while understanding one another's emotional pain after the battle is over. However, they, like all the villains who came from alternate universes, go back to their own worlds to continue their lives before the multiverse is cracked open. Spider-Man No Way Home gives Garfield Spider-Man a major and meaningful redemptive moment when he saves MJ, making up for the fact he could not save Gwen in his world. The Amazing Spider-Man Spider goes back to his universe a bit more hopefully than before, considering his current state. Maggiore Spider is not given as much. It's assumed that he will be reunited with the MJ when he returns. His reunion with the Doctor Sikim, who is no longer trying to kill him, could also mean they will reconcile and work together when they go back to their home. As the multiverse cracks open, further several shadow figures appear ready to step through to likely fight better. Better 2 and Better 3. Considering the multiverse's fracture is connected to Spider-Man's identity, the distant figures seen in the sky appear to be all the people who know and have ever known. Who Spider-Man is, none of the figures' faces are actually shown, however, with only their appearing as they step forward. However, two of the more distinct characters that seem to be coming through are Reno, who was portrayed by Paul in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Kraven the Hunter, who is getting his own movie in the Sony. Their brief appearance could set up in their eventual arrival in the MCU, which is especially interesting of Kraven, who was reportedly initially planned as a villain of Spider-Man No Way Home before the multiverse storyline took hold. Spider-Man No Way Home's ending rewrites the history of villains in their respective film, which means an alternative timeline could have branched off from the original one to just so changes moreover. No Way Home also altered the MCU's past and future. Now that no one remembers Peter Parker at all, it reshapes the Avengers' history with the superhero, as while Doctor Strange too confirms Spider-Man is still remembered as a hero. Any moment with Peter in his civilian form or information about his secret identity will be erased. Peter Parker is basically erased from the timeline, which forces him to begin anew and changes how every other superhero will remember past events, including the Avengers Endgame, the spell to some extent. Also rewrite Peter's origin story as Spider-Man, cut off from Tony Stark's money and he gadgets Spider-Man's timeline gets a fresh start. Crucially, the spell affects Peter's role in MCU's future, likely altering all future events and creating the various timeline trying to the multiverses to be sure. Nothing will be the same again. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is stabbed in the spine by Green Goblins, but he thankfully does not die. The moment was likely there to shock the audiences into thinking the hero was going to die after convincing Holland's Spider-Man not to kill Green Goblin for murdering his version of Aunt May. Maguire's Spider-Man jokes he's been stabbed before and he goes back to his universes with some blood to clean up, but he will more tank than likely heal up and be about shortly after. Ultimately, having Maguire's Spider-Man be stabbed makes more sense for the film in terms of emotional weight. After all, as he is Spider-Man, who has been around the longest and Dusty made suggestion that he could die in enough to elect a few gasps. Luckily, Maguire's web slinger is resilient. He's been through worse, so he will be able to bounce back. Peter does not take it well when MJ and NAT don't get into the MIT because of their connection to him.